In today's breaking update, we're finally uncovering the truth behind what everyone has been talking about, the so-called big Social Security increase coming in 2026. Many people have been sharing headlines claiming that retirees are about to see a huge boost in their monthly checks. But what's really happening behind those bold words? What is this increase really worth once the truth comes out? And most importantly, how much more money will actually land in your hands next year? Let's break it all down clearly because there's a lot of confusion, and some people might be in for a big surprise once they see the real numbers. So, here's the situation. Social Security is set to rise again in 2026 through what's called the Cost of Living Adjustment, or CA. This is the yearly raise that helps retirees keep up with inflation. Each year, the government checks how much prices have gone up, things like food, gas, utilities, and healthcare, and adjust benefits to make sure seniors don't fall behind. But this year, something very interesting is happening. For months, many outlets have been saying that 2026 will bring a major increase for retirees. But that phrase has turned out to be a little misleading. The truth is that while there will be an increase, it might not feel as big as many hoped. Once everything else is factored in, according to early projections, the Social Security COLA for 2026 will be around 2.6 to 2.8%. At first glance, that sounds decent. After all, any raise is better than nothing, right? But when you look closer, the real impact becomes much clearer and less exciting. Let's say, for example, you're currently receiving about $2,000 a month in benefits, with a 2.7% raise. That means you'll get an extra 50 followers each month. That brings your new total to around 254. Now, that's the gross increase. But before you start celebrating, we need to look at what's also going up next year because not everything that shines is gold when it comes to Social Security. The big catch is Medicare. Every year, the Medicare Part B premium, the amount most retirees pay for their health coverage, also adjusts. And this year, that increase could eat into a large part of your Social Security raise. Reports suggest the Medicare Part B premium could rise to about $26.50 per month in 2026, up from around $185. This means your monthly deduction could rise by about 21 or more. So if you gained $54 from your COLA, but lost $21 from higher Medicare costs, your net gain is only about $33. And once you add in other rising expenses, food, electricity, rent, and prescriptions, many seniors might find that their increase doesn't actually improve their real purchasing power at all. This is where the term exposed comes in. The so-called big increase isn't as big once you realize how much of it gets eaten up by other costs. The truth is, Social Security's formula is designed to help you keep up, not get ahead. The system tries to balance benefits with inflation, but the formula they use called CPIW, which stands for the Consumer Price Index for urban wage earners and clerical workers, doesn't really reflect how seniors spend their money. It focuses more on the costs faced by working households, not retirees. And that means the things retirees actually spend the most on, like health or housing and groceries, are often rising faster than the COLA can keep up with. For many retirees, this creates a frustrating cycle. Every year they hear about a raise coming to their Social Security checks. They start to plan around it, maybe expecting to have a little more breathing room, but then Medicare premiums rise. The cost of prescription drugs goes up, and their grocery bills keep climbing. By the time everything balances out, that extra $50 or so might not even cover what's changed at the store or the doctor's office. And that's what's truly being exposed right now, the gap between what the government calls a raise and what retirees actually feel in their wallets. Now, it's not all bad news. There's still some positive movement in the system. A 2.7% increase is slightly higher than the long-term average, which usually sits closer to 2.4%. So while it's not huge, it's not terrible either. It shows that inflation has cooled a bit from the last couple of years, which were filled with huge price jumps. In 2023 and 2024, inflation ran wild and retirees received unusually high COLAs, over 8% in 2023 and more than 3% in 2024. That might sound great, but those big raises were only there because prices had jumped even higher. So, the current number shows the economy is a bit more stable now, even if it doesn't feel like it when you're buying groceries or paying medical bills. For those who are still working while receiving Social Security, 2026 will also bring another change. The wage base will increase again. That's the maximum amount of your earnings that are subject to Social Security tax. It's projected to rise to around $183,600. This means higher earners will pay a little more into the system next year. Meanwhile, the earnings limit for those under full retirement age, the maximum you can earn before your benefits are reduced, will also likely increase. These numbers move each year to keep the system balanced. But for most retirees, the focus remains on how much they'll actually see in their checks every month. Let's talk about that average check again. The current average Social Security benefit is around $2.80 per month. After the projected COLA, that number would increase to about $262. That's a monthly difference of roughly $54. Over the year, that adds up to an extra $648 in total. But remember, if Medicare Part B premiums rise as expected, that yearly increase could shrink to just $300 or less in actual take-home pay. And if you factor in the higher costs of daily life, utilities, transportation, property taxes, or even simple items like milk and eggs, that increase can vanish quickly. Now let's address a question many people are asking. Could the COLA end up being higher than 2.7% if inflation rises again before the end of 2025? It's possible, but not very likely. The official rate is determined by inflation data from July, August, and September of 2025. Unless there's a major spike in prices during those months, the final COLA will probably stay near the current projection. However, if there is a sudden jump in fuel costs or food prices, it could go a bit higher, maybe close to 3%. Still, no one expects a repeat of the massive 2023 adjustment. Those days of 8% increases are behind us for now. Some retirees are also wondering if Congress will take any action to improve how the COA is calculated. There have been proposals to switch from the current CPIW to a new index called CPIE, the Consumer Price Index for the elderly. That version would better reflect the spending habits of older Americans, giving more weight to healthcare and housing. If Congress ever approves that change, seniors could start seeing slightly larger annual raises. But for now, that reform remains just an idea with no official vote or timeline set. So, what should you do if you're a retiree or close to retirement? First, make sure you know how the COA affects you personally. If you receive direct deposits, you'll automatically see the change in your January 2026 payment. The official announcement of the COLA will come from the Social Security Administration in October 2025. Once all the inflation data is in, that's when you'll know the exact number. From there, you can plan your 2026 budget more accurately, especially if you also expect your Medicare premium or property taxes to rise. It's also smart to remember that while Social Security is a lifeline, it was never designed to be the only source of income for retirees. The average benefit covers only about 40% of what most people need in retirement. That's why many financial advisors recommend having at least one other income source, whether it's savings, investments, or even part-time work. Depending on Social Security alone can make it difficult to handle unexpected expenses, especially when the raises are this small. Still, every dollar counts, and this increase, however small, will help millions of Americans. Around 70 million people receive Social Security, SSI or SSDI benefits. So even a modest increase represents billions of dollars in total payouts. That extra money flowing into local communities can help boost spending and provide a small cushion for those struggling to keep up with inflation. But for many seniors, the real challenge remains the same: trying to stretch fixed income across rising costs that never seem to slow down. The phrase "big increase exposed" has gained traction because it highlights a truth that many news outlets don't fully explain. Yes, Social Security payments are going up, but that's only half the story. The other half is how much of that increase disappears due to other adjustments, especially healthcare costs. In fact, some experts warned that for many retirees, the 2026 COLA could be completely offset by medical inflation alone. Prescription prices, co-pays, and long-term care expenses are expected to rise faster than the general inflation rate. That means even if your check goes up, your expenses might rise even faster. It's also important to mention that inflation affects everyone differently depending on where they live. For example, retirees in California or New York might face much higher cost for housing, utilities, and food than someone in a smaller town or rural area. So, while the COA is meant to help everyone equally, its impact is far from equal in reality. A 2.7% increase might cover one person's grocery bills for the month, but barely make a difference for another who's facing skyrocketing rent or medical bills. That's another reason why this big increase headline needs to be looked at carefully, because it doesn't affect every retiree the same way. Now, let's address another big concern that's been circulating online. Rumors that the Social Security Trust Fund is running out of money. It's true that the trust fund faces long-term financial pressure, but it's not about to disappear. According to the latest reports, the combined trust funds for retirement and disability benefits could be depleted by the mid-2030s if no action is taken. But even then, Social Security would still be able to pay about 75 to 80% of benefits from ongoing tax revenue. That means benefits might be reduced in the distant future if Congress doesn't act, but they're not vanishing overnight. Many experts believe that lawmakers will make adjustments long before that happens, possibly by raising the payroll tax cap, adjusting the benefit formula for high earners, or slowly increasing the full retirement age again. But none of those changes are on the books yet. For 2026, the system remains stable. The big increased talk, while attention-grabbing, doesn't change the core reality. The program continues to function, but retirees must plan carefully to handle modest benefit growth against rising costs. So, what's the real takeaway here? Takeaway: the Social Security increase for 2026 is real, but it's not the windfall some headlines make it sound like. If you currently receive $2,000 per month, expect an extra $50 to $55 before deductions. After Medicare and inflation, you might only feel about half of that in your pocket. But that small bump is still something, and it reflects the system's effort to keep retirees from falling further behind. It's not perfect, but it's better than nothing. Between now and next October, it's wise to keep an eye on inflation trends. Watch gas prices, food costs, and especially medical expenses, because these will all determine the final number. And when the Social Security Administration makes the official announcement next fall, you'll have a much clearer picture of what to expect in your January 2026 deposit. Remember, the loud headlines are designed to grab attention. The phrase Social Security's 2026 big increase just got exposed sounds dramatic, but the truth is much simpler. There's an increase, it's modest, and it will help, but not nearly as much as people might hope. Understanding that now helps you plan ahead instead of being caught off guard later. In the end, what matters most is not just how much your Social Security check goes up, but how much of it you actually keep after everything else is taken out. The system is doing what it's designed to do: protect retirees against inflation. But the bigger fight is the rising cost of living itself, and that's where every dollar counts. So when you see those headlines or hear someone say there's a huge increase coming, remember to look beyond the numbers. Ask how much of that increase will still be yours after Medicare taxes and inflation. That's the real story. Because for millions of Americans, the difference between what's promised and what's received can be the difference between comfort and struggle. And that's why this 2026 Social Security increase matters. It's not just about a percentage or a headline. It's about real people trying to make ends meet. It's about seniors who work their entire lives and now depend on this system to survive. It's about the reality that even small changes, a few dollars here or there, can mean a lot. So stay informed, plan wisely, and keep an eye on official announcements. The truth is finally out, and while it might not be as exciting as some headlines claim, knowing the real numbers helps you take control of your future. Because in the end, being prepared is the most powerful thing you